Welcome from all of us at DVSN, and thank you for joining us as we commemorate the lives lost to domestic violence in the past 12 months in Massachusetts. I am Jacqueline Apsher, the Executive Director of Domestic Violence Services Network, and this is DVSN's 21st Candlelight Vigil that we hope is helping to build awareness as we honor these 24 lives brutally lost to domestic violence. Sadly, that is a 50% increase from last year, illustrating that the struggle continues at a fierce pace. 24 lives from 21 different communities, from Boston to Lowell to Cape Cod to the Berkshires, across all walks of life, race, ethnicities, education, and income. We are honored to bring you this event each year and work hard to present a poignant and personal experience, even in this virtual world of Zoom. Domestic violence is a terrorism of a very personal and intimate nature that led to the deaths of 24 individuals and the immeasurable, agonizing grief of their loved ones. Their stories tonight show how the domestic terror they faced was complex, sinister, pervasive, and unrelenting. By joining us tonight to honor those lives, you help us shine a light on this horrific, devastating domestic plague, its prevalence in all of our communities, the paralyzing impact it has on its victims, and the lifetime of destruction and heartache it wreaks on each victim's children, family, and friends. Each story is complex. Each life lost is tragic and preventable. Murder and suicide are frequently the manner in which these individuals were killed. Often it happens when the victim decides to leave, tries to leave, or has left, when the abusive partner is losing control and escalates to lethal means. While power and control are always components of these relationships, mental illness can exacerbate the situation. Some stories tonight have a deeply heart-wrenching layer of mental illness, which amplifies the sense of loss and guilt for those left behind. The 24 stories will be read by representatives from our advocates, our board, and our police and community partners, a wide array of colleagues who stand with us this evening and with you to witness and honor these lives lost. Also this evening, we'll shine a light on a grueling story of loss, enormous persistence against all odds, and ultimate triumph, a story that truly expands the light in the darkness. Now, please join us in witnessing, honoring, and commemorating these 24 lives.
Deja Nicole Jenkins Minus, age 22, Boston, Massachusetts. On November 25th, 2021, Deja Nicole Jenkins Minus was allegedly murdered by her boyfriend, Leonard Robinson, 22, in his home in Lowell on Thanksgiving Day. Deja Nicole had been stabbed multiple times with her neck broken when police found her the next day. They were following up on a well-being check for Deja Nicole and her 2-month-old daughter after Robinson had posted on Facebook questioning if he was the father and demanding a paternity test. Robinson was out on bail with a GPS bracelet from 2 pending gun cases. He removed the GPS bracelet after fleeing the scene. Robinson was found in Boston and arrested. He was charged with murder and held without bail. Deja Nicole's baby was later found with no signs of physical harm. Deja Nicole was a beloved daughter, sister, niece, cousin, and mother. Her baby daughter is being cared for by her family.
Paula Andrea Ortiz Ramirez, age 48, Chelsea, Massachusetts. On December 11, 2021, Paula Andrea Ortiz Ramirez was found dead after being stabbed and slashed multiple times, allegedly by her estranged partner, Mario Lopera, also 48. According to police reports, they responded to a possible domestic violence incident and found Paula dead from her wounds. Lopera was taken to a hospital in critical condition from wounds that were allegedly self-inflicted after he allegedly murdered Paula. If he lives, he will be charged with murder and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. They had 2 children together. Family members describe Paula as her children's rock, their angel, their compassionate and strong mother who walked with them through so many challenges. District Attorney Rachel Rollins said in a statement, "This is a tragedy as children are now left without a mother and have a father who will be charged with murder if he survives. My heart goes out to these children and this family that is forced to endure tragedy and profound grief during the holiday season."
Muhammad Kauda, age 65, Malden, Massachusetts. On December 15, 2021, Muhammad Kauda was allegedly stabbed to death early in the morning by his son, Yassin Kauda, 27, in the parking garage of the apartment building where they lived. Kauda allegedly ambushed his father, waiting for his parents to enter the garage early that morning. He prepared for the crime by wrapping 2 knives in plastic wrap, lying in wait for Muhammad, stabbing him in the neck, and fleeing to the apartment the family shared. Police arrested him in the apartment. Kauda was charged with murder, assault and battery with a dangerous weapon causing serious bodily injury, and assault and battery on a person over 60. He was held without bail.
Shirley Owen, age 49, Franklin, Massachusetts. On December 17, 2021, Shirley Owen was allegedly killed by her former husband, Brendan Owen. Owen, dressed in all black and carrying a hammer, entered Shirley's home after she had taken their 2 children to school. He first attacked Shirley's mother, Mary Bronco, and restrained her. Mary managed to free herself and fled the house seeking help from a neighbor as she heard her daughter screaming. When police arrived, they found Owen starting a fire that eventually engulfed the entire home. Police found Shirley between the burning house and the garage. She was declared dead from blunt force trauma. In Owen's pocket, police found 3 handwritten notes, one to his mother, one to his children, and a checklist that included a lighter and lighter fluid. Owen was charged with murder, kidnapping, arson, and assault and battery charges, and was held without bail. The couple's 2 children, 13 and 15, were not at home at the time. The family was known to the police due to several domestic incidents in the past. Shirley had an active restraining order, which Owen violated twice. Their marriage ended after Shirley filed for divorce, citing years of verbal and physical abuse. Shirley's best friend described Shirley as straightforward and knew what she wanted. She had a go-getter spirit. What really stood out about her was her dedication and advocacy for her children.
Cheryl Pringle, age 40, Woburn, Massachusetts. On December 21st, 2021, Cheryl Pringle was found dead 2 days after having last been seen with her boyfriend, Bruce Mabin, 44, of Lynn. Cheryl's son, age 19, had reported her missing when she did not return home after a date with Mabin. The couple had been dating for a few months. Mabin claimed to have dropped Cheryl off at her residence, but her son reported that she never came home. A search by family and friends turned up Cheryl's phone in a sewage drain in Lynn. They found her body in a marsh in Saugus. Mabin has been charged with murder, larceny over $1,200, tampering with evidence, and obstruction. "It's been pure hell," Cheryl's mother said. "I'm a mother. That's my child. I feel like my heart has been ripped out." Cheryl's son told reporters, "My mother was a strong, independent woman, a dream chaser. I'm just feeling empty inside. I need my mom. I want her back immediately." "She was very caring," said her brother. "A great parent, a great sister. She had a lot of things going for her, and she had a bright future in front of her."
John O'Keefe, age 46, Canton, Massachusetts. On January 29, 2022, John O'Keefe died outside of his home after his girlfriend, Karen A. Reed, 41 of Mansfield, allegedly rammed into John with her car and left him in blizzard-like conditions. Reed has been indicted by a grand jury on counts of second-degree murder, motor vehicle manslaughter, and leaving the scene of a collision. John was a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department and the guardian of his late sister's 2 children. According to Boston police and media reports, John was part of a close-knit family from Braintree that had joined together to provide a home and emotional support for a niece and nephew who lost both parents within a year of each other. Boston's police superintendent remembered John as a kind person, dedicated to his family, and will be greatly missed by his co-workers and anyone who had the privilege of meeting him.
Donna Lamb, age 58, South End, Massachusetts. On March 15, 2022, Donna Lamb was fatally stabbed by her son, Nanjay Herbert, 23, at their South End home. The body of his mother was recovered inside the apartment. There were numerous stab wounds, the prosecutor said. His mother had found a suicide note on Herbert's phone. There had been an argument over that. As a result of that interaction, he stabbed her. Officers responding to Herbert's Tremont Street home found Donna's body, along with Herbert suffering from self-inflicted stab wounds as alleged by investigators. Herbert was arraigned from his hospital bed at Boston Medical Center, where he was charged with murder and ordered held without bail. A judge also ordered Herbert to undergo a mental health evaluation.
Osama Chahat, age 24, from Oxford, Massachusetts. On March 27, 2022, Osama Chahat was fatally stabbed in the apartment he shared with his brother-in-law and alleged perpetrator, Abdullah Abdur-Rahim. Abdur-Rahim had recently been estranged from his wife, Osama's sister. Osama was stabbed to death while protecting his sister and 4-year-old nephew. Abdur-Rahim was arraigned in Dudley District Court on domestic assault and battery charges. More charges against Abdur-Rahim are likely. Osama moved to the United States from Algeria in 2017 in search of a better life for himself and his family. He was a hardworking family man who went out of his way to get to know and understand people around him. His friends and family remember him for his contagious smile, soulful embrace, and for having the most generous heart. Osama is survived by his parents, sister, and 4-year-old nephew.
Michael Tully, age 58, Lynn, Massachusetts. On May 2, 2022, Michael Tully was stabbed to death by his son Thomas Tully, who also assaulted his mother Deborah. Tully was arraigned on a murder charge and was additionally charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. He was ordered to be held without bail. Michael leaves behind his beloved wife, his children, his grandchild, and his 2 brothers. In his obituary, his family wrote that Mike was an amazing father who did whatever he could to provide for his family and create a memorable childhood. Mike was passionate about his motorcycle and music. Anyone who knew Mike knows he was a great man. He leaves behind the most amazing stories and laughs in our memories. He will be severely missed.
Kiana Paige Barrows, age 20, Falmouth, Massachusetts. On May 10, 2022, Kiana Paige Barrows was shot in the head and allegedly killed by ex-boyfriend Tyler Gibbs, age 23, in her apartment. It is alleged that Gibbs had a gun and was wearing a ski mask when he went to Kiana's home that morning. After an hours-long armed standoff with the police, Gibbs was taken into custody and charged with murder, assault to murder with a firearm, and possessing a firearm without an FID card. A GoFundMe page for Kiana's funeral describes her as the most loving and caring person who touched many lives. In her obituary, family and friends described Kiana as having a deep fierce love for her family and her friends. She was kind to those who were different and shunned, and oh, so giving. Our hearts are breaking that we will never know what her gifts and talents would have blessed this world with, and this world is lesser for it. Predeceased by a brother, Kiana is survived by her parents, a brother, her grandparents, and a large extended family.
Terkeisha Evelyn Boykins, age 40, Mattapan, Massachusetts. On May 10th, 2022, Terkeisha Boykins was allegedly stabbed to death in her home by her boyfriend, Christopher Howard, age 39. A witness heard a commotion and entered the bedroom where they described seeing Howard on top of Terkeisha, stabbing her with a knife. Howard fled the apartment and the state. Authorities arrested him in Jacksonville, Florida, a week later. Howard was charged with murder. Prosecutors described Howard as a flight risk with a history of failing to follow court orders. Howard was ordered held without bail. Terkeisha was the mother of 7 daughters ranging in age from preteens to their late 20s. A neighbor told reporters that one daughter was screaming really loudly, "Why did you do this?" The neighbor added, "It's a terrible tragedy, you know, really traumatizing. I just pray for the family." A friend's tribute on Terkeisha's obituary page describes her as a wonderful soul taken too soon, a spirit that brought joy and laughter to so many.
Yahaira Suarez, age 31, Lynn, Massachusetts. On May 19, 2022, Yahaira Suarez was allegedly shot to death by her estranged husband, Jesse Mitchell, 46, before he killed himself in their home. One of Yahaira's brothers found their bodies in the basement, relatives said. They also indicated that Mitchell had enough weapons to cause a massacre. The couple was going through a divorce and fighting for custody over their 2 young children who were not at home during this alleged murder-suicide. Yahaira had obtained a restraining order against Mitchell the month prior, which required him to stay at least 100 yards away, pay $15,000 to Yahaira, and surrender his guns to authorities. Yahaira's sister described a pattern of abuse, saying, "Every time they argued, Yahaira told me that she felt that she wasn't safe." An affidavit in Yahaira's own handwriting stated that she feared Mitchell and the guns he owned. On the memorial GoFundMe page set up by Yahaira's family, they described her as having an infectious essence that infused any room with happiness and love. Her sister described her as such a loving mother and a joyous soul. Yahaira was a mother of 2, a retired U.S. Marine sergeant who didn't get upset easily, and someone who always had a smile on her face.
Barbara Hovey Narvaez, age 61, Medford, Massachusetts.
On May 22, 2022, Barbara Hovey Narvaez's body was discovered stuffed in a recycling bin under her own porch. Her son had alerted police when he couldn't find his mother. Barbara was in the middle of a contentious divorce from her husband, Fernando Narvaez, and the police had been called to the home on several occasions. Earlier in May, Barbara filed for a restraining order after a frightening encounter with her drunken husband, leading her to lock herself in her bedroom until he left. However, a week later, Barbara withdrew the application and the restraining order was never issued. The cause of her death was unclear. There were no obvious signs of trauma. The DA was waiting for toxicology reports that could take a while. Her family described Barbara as a woman of endless talents. She was quite creative, whether cooking her specialty gourmet dishes, sharing her angelic singing voice, or teaching ESL in Brazil, as Barb was multilingual. She was a die-hard Red Sox fan and a family of Yankee devotees. Barbara loved sitting on her back porch watching the birds, especially the cardinal she viewed as her daily visit from Dad. Reverend Carol Moorhead of Grace Episcopal Church stated of Barbara, "I don't think she said an unkind word about anyone. Moorhead said very generous and giving, fun, very caring. She did a lot of social justice work here. Sentiments expressed in her obituary were warm and loving. Barb's life was a gift to all who knew her, and she filled it with love. Her infectious smile would light up a room, and her hugs were frequent and fully enveloping. Barbara leaves her 2 children and a large, loving extended family."
Jillian Tetro Rosado, age 38, North Adams, Massachusetts. On May 28, 2022, Jillian Tetro Rosado was allegedly stabbed to death in her home by her husband, Luis Rosado, age 49. He is charged with murder and is being held without bail. In March, Jillian filed for an abuse prevention order. The handwritten affidavit stated, "I currently live with a fear I've never had in my life," and described Rosado's pattern of drug use and violence towards her. A judge issued the order to Jillian, but it expired weeks later when Jillian did not attend the hearing to finalize the order. Rosado had previously been convicted of abusing a different individual in 2020, for which he was sentenced to a year in prison on counts of assault, battery, strangulation, and larceny. Jillian's family described Rosado as intimidating, manipulative, volatile, and physically and verbally violent. He convinced state troopers that Jillian abused him, showing them a cut on his face, claiming that she did it. The troopers arrested Jillian. Rosado later admitted the cut was from shaving. Rosado was a heavy drug user, unstable and unpredictable, who punched, strangled, and stalked Jillian regularly. When she told him she planned to leave him, he screamed, "If you leave me, I will effing kill you," repeatedly. She did not call the police because she feared they would not believe her, as they hadn't before. Her obituary describes Jillian as a sweet and unworldly personality who lived life very spontaneously. She was a beautifully created free spirit with a gentle soul, a people pleaser, and an animal lover who would generously give to those in need, who saw the good in every person in every situation, who was always willing and ready to help others, who always had a smile on her face, and who lit up every room she entered. Jillian leaves her dear mother, her deeply loved children, several siblings, her beloved grandbaby, her closest friend, her 2 adored dogs, and many, many family members.
Mariel Ramos de los Santos, age 30, Lawrence, Massachusetts. On June 20th, 2022, Mariel Ramos de los Santos was allegedly stabbed to death by her husband, Junior Salas Garcia, 29. Officers said Mariel was found in the fetal position on the floor and was cold to the touch and stiff. There were 14 cuts and stab wounds on her body. Mariel had just returned from a visit to the Dominican Republic. Garcia was charged with murder and held without bail. Garcia's attorney claims he acted in self-defense after Mariel initially attacked him as they were arguing and allegedly stabbed him in the stomach, forcing him to defend himself. But according to the police report of the murder, he could not remember what they were arguing about. The couple's 4 children, ages 13, 9, and 4-year-old twins, were home at the time of the incident. One of Mariel's children told investigators Garcia had been drinking and using white powder for 3 days prior to the incident. The children also said their mother previously obtained divorce papers in the Dominican Republic. Relatives of Mariel told investigators Garcia was very controlling and abusive. There was a history of domestic violence documented by the Lawrence Police Department and the state's Department of Children and Families. More than 200 people attended a vigil for Mariel, where they lit candles, released balloons, and prayed. Mariel is described by her family as a dedicated, hardworking woman who provided much support and love for her family. She enjoyed helping people and listening to music. Her children were her passion, and she always fought for them. Mariel is survived by her children, parents, 3 brothers, and many aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews.
Nerian Pereira de Silva, age 30, Framingham, Massachusetts. On July 17, 2022, Nerian Pereira de Silva was allegedly stabbed to death in her home by her husband, Eduardo Gomes de Silva, 40. Their landlord had called the police after noticing blood leaking from under the door leading to their 3rd floor. Upon entering, police saw Nerian lying at the bottom of a staircase and covered in blood.
She was unresponsive and had several puncture wounds to her chest and arm. She was transported to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. A preliminary investigation suggested that Gomes da Silva allegedly stabbed his wife multiple times before injuring himself with the knife. Gomes da Silva was taken to the hospital with what appeared to be self-inflicted wounds. His injuries were considered not life-threatening. Gomes da Silva was arraigned on the charge of murder and ordered held without bail. Police found a note on the kitchen table handwritten in Portuguese, which was addressed to the daughter of the victim. Police also determined that around the time of the murder, Gomes da Silva had sent a voice message to the victim's brother. Both husband and wife were immigrants from Brazil. A friend who traveled with them from Brazil said the news surprised her because they seemed to be a good couple. They were a very affectionate couple with each other that I could see. Nerian was deeply devoted to her young daughter. To commemorate Nerian's life with her daughter, Nerian's family created a poignant video illustrating the profound love Nerian shared with her daughter.
Mary Anderson, age 23, Harvard, Massachusetts. On July 19, 2022, Mary Anderson was found dead in her truck in Brattleboro, Vermont, from what police confirmed was a gunshot wound. Mary had been reported missing after she did not return home from visiting friends. Her family told police they had not had any contact with her, which was unusual. They believed she had been abducted after discovering a backpack behind a tree outside her home belonging to Mary's ex-boyfriend. Mary and her ex-boyfriend, Matthew Davis, 34, dated for about 2 years and broke up last November. Mary went through a bad breakup with Davis and told her mother that Davis had trouble managing his anger. I know when they broke up, it was a rough breakup. He didn't want it, and I know that he kept texting her to try to get back together. When the police found Davis for questioning, he was armed with a knife and died from his injuries after being shot during the confrontation. Davis had previously served time in prison for armed assault and battery after he was convicted of hiding in an ex-girlfriend's closet and attacking her new lover with a knife. A close family friend expressed the family's despair. We wanted to see him in jail, to see him go through a trial and see him pay for the crime he committed. Mary was a beautiful, compassionate, and athletic young woman. She was the second oldest of 4 children and loved spending time with her family and siblings, especially when they traveled and went camping. Her mother told reporters that she was just a beautiful daughter. Her dear friend described Mary as the purest soul that you could ever meet. If there were angels in real life, Mary was one of them. She was the sweetest girl, the kindest person, always had a smile on her face, was always doing something to help or enjoy life. Mary was predeceased by her brother, Joseph, just over a year ago, and is survived by her mother, siblings, paternal grandmother, and many aunts, uncles, and cousins.
Jamal Sudson, age 38, Lynn, Massachusetts. On July 19th, 2022, Jamal Sudson was allegedly shot to death by Brian Green, 35 of Saugus. Despite a restraining order, Green allegedly entered his estranged wife's apartment and fatally shot her current partner, Jamal Sudson, because he was angry about their relationship. Green and his wife were reportedly in the process of getting divorced after 4 years of marriage. Green is being held without bail and was arraigned on charges of armed burglary and first-degree murder. Prosecutors said Green had a previous criminal record, including prior gun offenses and a history of abuse and strangulation with women he had dated who had taken out restraining orders against him. Investigators said Green was identified as the gunman following a review of surveillance video and cell tower data that placed him at the scene of the homicide. Prosecutor Suzanne Wiseman said he had 2 previous restraining orders against him, both of which are connected to alleged domestic violence. When there is a dating relationship, when that female wants to end the relationship, this defendant will not accept it, Wiseman said. Green was angry that his wife had returned to the father of her child, and he sent harassing text messages for months up to the night before the murder. The family is grieving the loss of Jamal, a father, a son, and a brother, said a family spokesman. While the hearing opens up a floodgate of emotions, the family is putting their trust in and abiding by the process of the judicial system. We are disappointed to see the suspect involved, Brian Green, who is no stranger to our family. The families grew up together, and members of the Green family attending the hearing apologized. Jamal was the father of 4 children who he loved dearly. He was active in all areas of their lives. His greatest joy was being a loving father. He was very loyal to his circle of friends. If you needed Jamal, he was right there for you. He had a big heart and would often help people in need, even giving them the shirt off his back. Jamal leaves behind his 4 children, parents, 2 grandmothers, 6 siblings, 2 special brothers, his godparents, 3 godchildren, and a host of aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends.
Desiree Rivera Lopez, age 36, Holyoke, Massachusetts. On July 23, 2022, Desiree Lopez was allegedly shot to death by her boyfriend, Pablo Rivera Ortiz, 37. Police arrived at the scene for a domestic altercation and found Desiree dead from her injuries. Rivera Ortiz was charged with murder and is being held without bail. Originally from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, Desiree leaves behind 4 beautiful children, ages 14, 10, 8, and 5. Her parents, sister, and 2 brothers. Her obituary states Desiree touched the lives of many people. She was always there for others, even when she felt the world was against her. Yahari Valentine, who has known Desiree since she was 17 years old, wrote, "Everyone who knew Desiree loved her for her smile and the way she made everyone around her laugh. She was a wonderful mother. She loved her children more than anything else. We have suffered a significant loss."
Linda Gilbert, age 64, Lowell, Massachusetts. On July 31st, 2022, Linda Gilbert was allegedly stabbed to death in her home by her grandnephew, Rashawn Settles, 22, who lived with her. Police, responding to reports of an unresponsive female, found Linda suffering from multiple stab wounds. Linda was brought to Lowell General Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. According to state police, after allegedly killing Linda, Settles took an evasive route away from the murder scene to avoid law enforcement. He broke into the apartment of Leo Nanez, his grandfather, where he showered and changed his clothing. Police found a bag with clothing they believe Settles was wearing at the time of the slaying that had Linda's DNA on it. Settles was held without bail on charges of murder in his great-aunt's death and burglary at his grandfather's house. Linda worked for many years in a group home serving adults with developmental disabilities, and loved working with clergy members at her local church. Linda's hobbies and interests including spending time with family, friends, and members of her congregation. She loved reading and hosted Bible studies in her home. She had a deep love for her dogs Annie, Rosie, Pete, and Lady. Nothing could sway Linda from devoting her time, energy, and love to others. She was also interested in music and took special delight in her harmonica. Linda is survived by her sister and brother, nieces and nephews, and several great nephews and great nieces. Her family shared that Linda's vibrant spirit, humor, and positive energy will be deeply missed by all who were honored to know her.
Unnamed married couple, age 70s, Wareham, Massachusetts. On August 19, 2022, the bodies of a married couple in their 70s were discovered in their Wareham house in what appears to be a double shooting murder-suicide. Their names have not yet been released. State police officers went door to door asking neighbors what they'd seen or heard throughout the afternoon and their knowledge of the people who lived in the house. Neighbors expressed shock at the heartbreaking news. They said the well-known couple had lived in Wareham for decades and were a fixture in the neighborhood. Reporters were told that the wife had Alzheimer's disease. Neighbors also shared that the week before the murder-suicide, the couple enjoyed spending time with their friends at a neighborhood block party.
Megan Marone, age 42, Lee, Massachusetts.
On September 1st, 2022, Megan Marone's remains were discovered in a heavily wooded area of Lee, Massachusetts. Megan was last seen in Lee, Massachusetts on Sunday, March 27th, while on a hike near the Longcope Property Park. Her car was found unlocked in the parking lot. An extensive search was conducted by police, family, and friends for several days. Her brother said Megan texted him on March 26 and told him she was at the Red Lion Inn in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. She was just taking a break, he told Dateline. Just, some R&R. That was the last time he heard from Megan. Marone had told a friend she was going into hiding, quote, to escape from a man whom she said was stalking her and had brutally harassed and intimidated me because I wouldn't sleep with him. She was too afraid to stay at home, especially when she saw him drive by her house. Megan was granted a leave from teaching and camped out at the Red Lion Inn. She was last seen on March 27th. Megan was a devoted high school English teacher. She was a creative, free spirit who loved to travel and spend time outdoors. Megan was a poet, activist, environmentalist, charismatic, witty, and a genuinely loving and beautiful person. She was one of those unique, impassioned, endlessly curious, and deeply caring teachers that transform young lives. In her hometown, although chronically short of money, she could be found at the downtown diner at night, feeding kids she mentored who came from low-income families, said her friend. In tribute, former students and family shared memories about Megan, remembering her beauty, intelligence, and widespread influence. The imprint that Megan left is so large it is impossible to list every way that she left a mark. We will miss her dearly and send our love to all of you who miss her too. She is survived by her father, her siblings, and a large, loving, extended family and friends. A cause and manner of death have not yet been released in the case. The Berkshire District Attorney's Office told Dateline the investigation remains ongoing.
Aline de Lima Ferreira de Castro, age 38, Hyannis, Massachusetts. On September 2nd, 2022, Aline de Lima Ferreira de Castro was allegedly stabbed to death by her husband, Luis Castro Jr., 44, before he hung himself in their home. Their two children, ages 7 and 11, were home at the time of the apparent murder-suicide. It was the 11-year-old who witnessed a horrific scene and called the police, stating his father assaulted his mother with a knife and then went into a bathroom. The couple had just rebuilt their home after it was damaged in a fire. As officers arrived on scene, Castro had a knife and was apparently barricaded in a room upstairs. The couple had been in the country for 8 years, and the children do not have immediate family locally. Efforts were made to bring their grandmother to the U.S. from Brazil. The children were in the temporary care of Aline's close friend until the grandmother arrived. One neighbor expressed shock. It is definite, a shock. How can there be any reaction except that? It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Friends and family set up GoFundMe accounts to help pay for the funerals and to provide funds for the children's care.
Susan Howe, age 70, Truro, Massachusetts. On September 30th, 2022, Susan Howe was allegedly murdered by her son Adam Howe, 34, who then set her on fire outside the home they shared on Cape Cod. Howe, who had been living with his mother in their Truro home, struggled with heroin addiction. A family friend indicated that Susan threatened to kick him out if he didn't quit heroin. Concerned family friends had called the police for a well-being check on Susan at the same time that the fire department was called for a fire near the home. First responders soon realized that the fire was a dead body burning. Howe barricaded himself in the home when the police arrived. Eventually, he was arrested by the regional SWAT team and charged with his mother's murder. Based on information from family members and written reports of his suicidal ideation, Howe was to be evaluated by mental health professionals in a secure facility. The judge ordered Howe to be transported to Bridgewater State Hospital. Confusion regarding the statute under which he could be committed sent him to Ash Street Jail instead. Howe was found dead in his cell later that day. Susan was the president of the Truro Historical Society and the chair of the town's Commission on Disabilities. The local Truro government issued a statement on Susan's death. Our hearts are heavy with the news that we have lost a beloved member of our community, Susan Howe. This historical society praised Susan's immense creativity, energy, passion, and her generous gift of her time. Susan was totally committed to preserving the history, culture, and well-being of her beloved town. Susan was a bright light in our town. She was loved by so many of us, and we will miss her forever. For her obituary, Susan's family wrote that she was passionate about music, playing the guitar and piano. She sang songs with preschoolers, taught guitar lessons, and shared her love of music with her children. She loved attending opera with her daughter. Susan was a devoted disabilities advocate and helped renovate a Truro playground to make it accessible to people of all abilities. She will be greatly missed by all the people who loved her.
Thank you for bearing witness to these devastating stories of love and lives lost. While the stories are dark and despairing, we also want to honor the ways in which these individuals showed strength and perseverance in trying to change their lives, in struggling to protect loved ones, in trying to do everything right for their children and others they loved. And even though they lost those battles, with great determination, they took the risk, they tried, they made the effort. Let's not let their tragic outcomes obscure the fact that many of these individuals were truly heroic in their struggle to be free. Tonight, we have the honor and privilege to highlight another tragic story that led to an extraordinary triumph due to the persistence and tenacity of a sister, the perseverance of a dedicated detective, the courage of witnesses, and a large, caring community of family and friends that were constant and fierce in their love and support. 7 years ago, in 2015, Stacy Malman Feldman was murdered by her husband, who staged the homicide to look like an accident in the shower. But with the husband explaining it to be an accident and with no obvious evidence to the contrary, Stacy's death was officially declared undetermined. Stacy's sister, Susan Altman, a local community member and a friend to DVSN, along with the detective on the case, was pretty sure the husband had murdered her sister, Stacy. They spent 6 years not letting the case go cold, with the help of a forensic expert who skillfully refuted the undetermined designation, and 2 women who had been manipulated and abused by Stacy's husband. Susan and the detective prevailed in getting the husband charged with murder. It took another year for the case to finally be tried. In February 2022, the husband was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. Please visit dvsn.org/blog to read more about Stacy's story and a growing discovery of many domestic violence murders staged as accidents or suicides. There is also a link in the blog to the Dateline episode about Stacy's story and Susan's triumphant search for justice for Stacy. Jodi Blankstein, a very close friend of Susan's, is a songstress, composer, and cantor. She co-wrote a song with Adam Dehner honoring Stacy and the light she brought to her family and friends. Tonight, we will hear Jodi and Adam sing their song for us. We have the honor of premiering Stacy's song, Cherish Her Light, as part of an exquisite montage to Stacy, to the 24 individuals we commemorated earlier, to the additional 28 lives lost the past 2 years, and to all those who have suffered grievously at the hands of an abuser. We are enormously grateful to Naomi Rizel and Jack Brotman, videographers from Generations Cinema Stories, who created this montage as a gift to DVSN and to Jodi to highlight the song in the best possible way. And now we are pleased to present Stacy's song, Cherish Her Light.
In the depths of the night, reach down within, hold on to your light, and know you're not alone, even though it may seem so. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Mother, sister, daughter, friend. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Guard and remember her light. Even now that you're gone, we are inspired to carry you on. No, it's not in vain. The world will learn your story and your name. We won't let him take away your light. has the right. We will always champion your fight. Although you're gone, you still live on. No one has a way to make it right, but hope can still arise. Now it's up to us to shine your light. Although you're gone, you will live on. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Mother, sister, daughter, friend. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Guard and remember her light. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Mother, sister, daughter, friend. Cherish her light, oh, cherish her light. Guard and remember, guard and remember her light.
What an incredible tribute to Stacy with her special song embedded in a magnificent montage honoring lives lost to domestic violence. Thank you again, Susan, Jodi, Adam, Naomi, and Jack. We are truly grateful for such a beautifully rendered message. And a very special thank you to Susan, who was the driving force behind wrestling triumphant victories out of a heart-wrenching tragedy. Susan's extraordinary efforts are making a difference in so many ways, fighting long and hard to finally get justice for Stacy and for Stacy's family and friends, launching a renewed and expanded focus for researchers and law enforcement on staged accidents and suicides as concealed homicides, and locally establishing Stacy's Fund with DVSN to expand our legal assistance services to include limited assistance representation. This will offer our clients free legal representation at restraining order hearings, custody battles, immigration hearings, or a number of other discrete elements of legal proceedings. Please log on to dvsn.org/blog to learn more about Stacy's story and about Stacy's Fund and how you can help support it. This has been an emotional evening for all of us, and as you reconnect with the space around you, please be sure to take a moment to indulge in an activity or experience that brings you joy. Before we close, I want to thank Dan Adams, a dear friend of our family, for the wonderful piano piece he prepared to accompany the quiet moments honoring each victim. Thank you also to our 24 readers for making the time to create a personal connection with each of our honorees. And huge applause to our fabulous behind-the-scenes magicians, Jessica and Alexandra. They created all the graphics and put all the many, many pieces together seamlessly for this very moving presentation. And thank all of you for sharing this evening with us. Take care, stay well, and good night.